Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Manolo Show. My name's Matt.
I'm Jason.
And we're here today on the Manolo Show to talk to you about prioritizing features for your software.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I say that every week that sounds fun because it sounds fun.
Could be. What did we see earlier? Putting the fun back in funnels?
Putting the fun back in funnels. Next week on the Manolo Show, how funnels were never fun in the first place.
What can we do? Putting the soft back in software, or putting?
We don't want that.
No, putting the.
You're Manolo. We're soft.
Yeah, putting the moo back in. I don't know. We'll have to think of a catchy slogan.
Why don't you guys let us know?
Yeah, so part of what we do in the very beginning of any big software project is we do the discovery phase, which is the first phase of the project. Inside of the discovery phase is really prioritizing features that are going to go into the software.
Because not everything hits. Not everything gets. You have very high hopes at the beginning and at the very end. Like, not everything's going to be able to be implemented.
Right.
Budgets happen, time happens, and
competition, market.
As we're going to see, like, there are ways that you can trim the fat or see what goes first. So,
yep. This is going to be a cool little workshop. We're going to go through the two different models of prioritizing features, which is Rice and Moscow. So we're going to go through those models, and we're going to actually get onto the computer, share our screen, walk through one of the models to help you understand, kind of like where we come from when we're approaching the discovery phase. It really helps us understand all the features that need to go into the software, but then it also helps your business or your software. It really helps your launch. Basically, you're going to get to the point of, all right, these are just the features that I need to launch with.
Yeah.
Because in your mind, you might be thinking, hey, I want to build this app that's going to do 73 different things. And then you go through this exercise and you realize, wow, it's only 25 things are really needed. And all of a sudden you're now thinking, oh, this thing's going to take forever to build, to, wow, this really won't take long at all, or cost that much money. Or
this is also a really easy method to, get those core features out first and clearly know what needs to launch by the first launch date and what can be passed on to a secondary launch date.
Yep. Yeah, like phase 2, phase 3. Yeah, for sure. So we mentioned the two different models. So there's the Rice model, which is the reach, impact, confidence, and effort. So you analyze and put numbers to each of those 4 different categories. And then the Moscow way of doing it is whether it's a must-have, a should-have, a could-have, or just won't-have at this time. So certainly the Rice method is certainly going to get you more of a data analytical. It's going to spit out numbers. It's
easy to sort.
Easy to sort.
Yeah.
It's going to help you sift through which ones, whereas the Moscow method is really going to be kind of just like the feeling from the leadership team or the feeling from like the stakeholders on whether or not something should be developed or not.
Yeah. Kind of seems like the Moscow is like a quick, dirty one, like a very, we don't need or want to put too much analysis into it. And then Rice is your data driven. This is, we want to know exactly which feature is in a ranked order, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4, that sort of thing. Right. I would prefer Rice, I think, almost all the time, but that's just the way my brain works.
Right. Yeah, certainly. And then, so when talking about the Rice method, we mentioned earlier. So as we go through, we'll show you the formula that's involved here. Very, very simple. So you take reach, you times it by impact, you times it by confidence, and then you divide that by your effort. And your reach is how many users or how many people, employees, customers are going to use this software on a monthly basis. And then impact is really the relating to the user experience and what impact it's going to have on those users. And it's typically on a range between 0.25 and 3.
Impact is the fuzziest of the 3, I feel.
Right.
Because it seems like a kind of a arbitrary multiplier in the function.
Right.
Math.
And then confidence comes in at how good and solid you think your numbers are for reach and impact. So confidence is 0 to 100%. If you're not sure of reach and you're not sure of impact, then you're probably at a 50%.
Yeah.
or maybe even like a 25%.
And that kind of makes sense because the more confident you are in those two numbers, the more confident you are that that is like an accurate measurement of the thing. It's less chaotic, but the less confident you are, obviously, like the more margin for error you might have, or the more potential for error you might have in your calculation.
Right.
Wouldn't it suck if you said that your reach was really, really high, and so it got a really high number at the end, but then you messed up on that. Your reach was actually much, much lower than that. You just put something really high on the list that should have been more down towards a 7 or 8.
Right. So, and then effort comes in where it's looked at as man or person per month. So how many persons per month is really will it take to complete this feature? So is it 1 person per month? Is it 4 people per month? Is it 1 person per 4 months? So we just take that number, we take the reach times impact times confidence and divide it by effort, and we get a number. And that number goes a long way into what we need to figure out for our features.
Yeah. I like it. There's a bee flying around. Around us? Yeah. It came like, I hope you guys could see it.
I think we'll be all right.
Maybe. I'm going to be nervous this whole time. I don't do well with bees.
We'll figure it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a pseudo project, if you will, a pseudo thought of an app. One that's, certainly we've seen, certainly we've used as customers. We've been involved in business. We've seen it. We know it's out there. A lot of companies use it as really software or an app to track or to assign jobs to crews or fleets. And that would be, geographically, and we'll just call it United States, and we'll, figure out a way to track it in the United States. But basically, you've got work orders that are coming into your business. You need to assign work orders out to people to complete them out in maybe different states in the country.
And sites attached to that, so you know where they are. That's where the geographic location comes in.
Yep. So you might start to think, okay, you might pull out a piece of paper, or you might get out a Google Sheet, or you might get out a Google Doc or a Word doc, and you might start to write down, or a notepad. You might be able to write, I need my app to do this and this and this and this and this, and all of a sudden you've got, a pretty large list. Now, most of the time that list is never really thought through all the way. Right. Someone might get to like feature 3 and they might say, my feature needs to do this, but then they realize that this feature is really a giant feature that needs to do like 17 things.
Yeah.
So when we go through this process, even before we get to doing the RICE method, we'll first begin to build out, okay, exactly, tell us more about this here, tell us more about this. And then we kind of build out our, kind of like they always say, like, write everything down. Like, no matter if it's, horrible, terrible, cool, stupid, whatever, get it all out.
And then brainstorm.
Once it's all out there, like a mind map almost, you can just start canceling. And then we need to be able to build a schedule. So we've got people, we've got work orders, and then we have a schedule, because we need to know when we can schedule these work orders, when, maybe the site isn't available at a particular time. Or maybe our crews aren't completely done with the previous work order. So we have, we got to develop some type of work order. So it's people, it's work orders, and then it's a schedule, which we'll get into talking about the intermediary features of what the schedule might have in it as well. All right. So we're going to have people in our system. So we're going to go ahead and write down in our name a feature that we're going to need, a person. Right. A person needs to exist inside of our system in some way, shape, or form. And then to get a person into our system, it's likely, no matter if you're using a no-code tool, a low-code tool, or a custom tool gets built for you, you'll have some type of, create operation or some type of input form to put an employee or a user into the database that has access to the system.
Yeah.
I think we should note too that this was going to be like an internal tool for a company.
Oh yeah, so internal tool for a company, probably like 100 people working for that company, which comes into play when we talk about reach.
Yep.
I don't think any other in the United States, just to make it easy for sites and whatnot, but I don't think any other detail is needed.
Yep. Cool. So we've got a person that needs to get into our system, which could technically be an employee, right? So what we can just call him person, or we can call him employee, just to make it, apples to apples. So we have an employee. Now, how many are we going to say? So everybody in the company, or should we say maybe 80% of the company?
Yeah, I mean, we got to think about who needs to view this information or see this information.
Right.
Is the worker in the field going to need to see other employees or other people's data or that sort of thing? Maybe not necessarily, but certainly like HR, administration, the actual coordinators.
So of the 100 employee company, maybe only 30?
Yeah.
So let's do 30. And then the impact. So this scheduler would not be able to work without us. So the impact here would be a 3, right?
High, yeah.
And then confidence, would we say we're probably around 75% confident in our numbers?
Yeah, there's probably the chance that more people might be impacted. Like our reach could be off a little bit if the field employees also need to see this information at some point. So I feel like a little ding for that is appropriate.
Right. And then person month. So this is just an insert into a database or an add into a system. So this is likely, 0.5 of a month, 1 month, 1 person month maybe. So we can do
I'd say 1 person month.
Yep.
That's a high score.
That is a high score.
Math checks out, I think.
Yeah. So it's 0 to really 1, right? So it should be 0.75.
Yeah. You're right. No, it's 75. Right.
Yep. Cool. So then once we go from employee, then we need crews, right? Because we need to attach an employee to a crew and assign that crew to the work order to go get finished up. So we need to be able to put in crews, not there, here, crews. So basically maybe the same.
Probably.
Maybe the same reach, right? Without crews, we can't assign, right? Just like we said earlier. And then probably same 75 here. And then probably 1 person per month, which gets us the same 67.5. And then from crews, on the map, which we'll talk about a little bit later, a distinguishable way for you to see different crews on the map is having a pin on the map be a different color or the color representation of the crew. So crews need to have their own pin color or pin object or some type of avatar icon. Yeah. So crews having their own custom icon color, whatever. So this is viewing it on the map, right? And there might be more than the 30 people within the company that might need to view this, like schedulers. Maybe the client has access to this. We'll keep the client kind of out of this for now. But
I could certainly see the crew leaders needing
you got management level, you got leadership, you've got data analytics people within the company. You've got, so maybe this grows to more like 80, right?
Yeah. I feel like the impact is going to be smaller here.
Yeah.
Just because I don't feel like it's obviously having employees and crews as part of the app is very important. It doesn't work without this. The app will work without that icon color being there.
Right. So this, would you say is more like a 1 or 1.5?
Yeah, I would probably say a 1.25.
1.25. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then confidence level.
I think I'm more confident in our estimation of this one.
So like a 0.9?
Yeah.
And then person months?
Less than 1.
So 0.5, 0.6?
Yeah. Let's do 0.5.
Cool. Awesome. Confidence levels definitely higher, more users, right?
Less effort.
It
makes a big difference. If that were 1, then that would, the score would go in half. So
right. Cool. So yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because according to the method, the higher numbers become more of a priority, right? So it seems as if crews having their own custom icon color are more of a priority than the actual employee going.
Yeah, but look at the reach too. Like it's a huge difference in
right.
reach.
Right.
more people affected, more impactful, I guess.
Awesome. Now, part of the employee, and you get into features that may not be necessary, right? So when you think about this stuff and you're writing it all down, you might look at, what about an organizational chart on the employee, right? Who does this employee report to? What department are they in, right? 4 employees, The reach is probably like the same 30 people that would be able to see employee metadata, right? And the impact?
Yeah, probably much even lower than the 1.25.
Right. So impact is probably like 0.5, right?
Yeah, I'd put it sub 1.
Confidence?
Pretty confident.
Right. Probably 0.65, maybe 0.7. 0.65. And then persons, throwing in an organizational chart for employees. 1 person month.
Yeah. Yeah, that impact destroyed that score number. And that makes sense.
Right.
That would probably be one of the first things to go in your minimum viable product.
Right. Now, the same thing with organizational charts, or the same thing even when looking in an intranet or like at a set of employees, someone's hire date. How long have they been with the company? We see
other type of employee, like information, birthdays,
hire date,
contact information,
birth date, contact info, right? Firstborn. Reach, right? 30, impact. This is probably less than an organizational chart, like knowing their first probably is not necessary. So maybe a 0.3, confidence, probably like a 0.7, and effort, probably a 0.5, just to pull that data out of the database, right? And then, you're still, kind of right around organizational chart. Very low RICE score for sure.
Yeah. Effort has such a big impact on that. I mean, obviously math, when you divide something, that's the big impactor. So
Right.
It's interesting.
So then we get to work orders. We've got our people kind of all set now. Of course, there would be a lot more stuff that would have to go within people.
Not a comprehensive list.
Yeah. People having, authentication, right, data to be able to authenticate in and see the schedule, right? We're not even going to get to that.
HR would need a whole slew of other types of information, like, their job categories and their
job
pay rates,
title, pay rates,
stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're skipping over all of that detail for this quick podcast here.
No HR in our new company.
So then we get to work orders. So we got our employees, we get to work orders, right? You're certainly going to want to know metadata about a work order. What is the title of it in the system? What's the location? Where do I need to fly to or drive to or swim to do the work, right?
So this would affect a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Like the whole workforce pretty much.
Right. This is probably getting into like the 80 people, 80 employees. A lot of people need to see the information about the work order, the status of it, who's assigned to it, and so on.
I would probably say this is a 90 at least.
90. The impact, you got to know the information. You got to know its location, who the client is, what you're actually doing. So I think this is almost a 3. Confidence is pretty up there, maybe an 80%, 85%. And then effort, at least a 1, I would say, to get the metadata of the work order in there. So maybe a 1.
Yeah.
Yep. And we get pretty high, which makes sense. Because you can't have a map load with work orders if there are no work orders. You can have employees, but if there are no work orders, you've got to use this.
This is going to be a real high score feature.
Right.
This whole category.
Right. So then we get into, the location of the work order of the work order. So not necessarily like the metadata, but maybe like the
pin on the map where it goes.
The pin on the map, yeah. So the lat long, the GPS coordinates, while it can be metadata, that metadata is actually extremely important. If you get it wrong, you've got crews kind of driving around wondering where this thing is at. So let's call it work order location. i.e. lat long. So I think everyone would see this, keeping with the 90 people. The impact of this would be the impact of this obviously needs to be there. The confidence level here, 0.8. Effort here, though, putting the pins on the map, 1.5, 1.25. Let's go 1.35. So a person and a third in 1 month. And then we have our 160.
Getting a nice list coming.
Yep. Cool. And then we have our tactical plan. So if you're going to send a crew out to a job site to conduct a work order, that crew needs to know what to do once they arrive.
Yeah. What materials do they need to bring? Do they need to have? What tools? What, accesses? All of that type of stuff.
Yep.
I almost think that some of our threes in our impacts could go down because certainly this tactical plan is probably more important than the metadata impact wise. Just
sure.
Kind of spitballing.
Sure. Yeah. And that's perfectly fine to sit here and think things through.
Yeah. And this makes sense when you start comparing things to each other. You nothing is set in stone, obviously,
right.
until everything is all complete and everybody has their say in the numbers and that sort of thing. So this is a good representation of that.
So then we got our tactical plan, right? And this is, does everybody see this tactical plan?
Yeah, I think that this would be more than 90 because think about it, almost everybody needs to be involved in that, pretty much all the way up to the
sure.
top for the most part.
Yeah, what are we doing for the client? What are we doing on the job site? Who's assigned to it?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a 3?
This is a 3.
And the confidence could be a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then
this is going to be a bigger effort because there's a lot to track.
Right.
Thinking about keeping inventories and this kind of brings all the things together or a lot of the things together.
So is this a 3-person month? Is this a 2-person month?
I could see it being a 3 and a 3 in a bad sprint.
Oh yeah. Yep. For sure. We could maybe we need to switch these back to whole numbers. Right, because these seem to be going in the opposite direction.
Well, I mean, only because the effort is so high. A higher effort thing means that it takes more to do it. So if you can avoid doing the high effort things, you would want to avoid doing the high effort things. So it makes sense that would be a 90.
Got it. So we have our tactical plan. So that's what we're calling the work order stuff. So now that we have the people, we've got our work order. Now we want to have the schedule because now that we have people in our system, we've got work orders in our system. Now we can kind of bring it all into the schedule and then get crews assigned to work orders, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the schedule is going to be, if you can think about a Google map, right? Or some type of interactive map that has pins on the map where work orders need to be done. And then the color of the pin changes when a crew gets assigned to it. So, not that we're going to reinvent the wheel or create our own map.
Right. Just use Google.
You can just use Google.
Everybody else does.
Right. Now, with using Google, there are API stuff that everyone needs to be aware of about usages and limits, while the free plan is extremely generous and could really take care of this feature or all these features, under the free tier. You want to make sure that you're aware of any charges that you might incur by doing this.
Right. Obviously, if you have a 10,000 person company and you're in every state in the United States, plus Canada and Mexico maybe, then obviously you're probably going to go over some of those limits.
Right. So the map, everyone's probably going to need to be able to see the map, right? Mm-hmm. I would think so. So everyone in the company. The impact of it, if you don't have a map, you don't know where the pins are, you don't know where the work is being completed.
Right.
So you've got an impact on that. Confidence, pretty high, right? An effort to get a Google map out there is probably 3-person months likely.
Yeah.
2 to 3, so maybe 2.5.
Yeah, I would say that would be less than the tactical plan.
Yep. It's got 114. So then now that we got our Google map, right, now we need to get the work orders onto the map, and then we need to know which work orders are already assigned and already being worked on, and which ones still need to be assigned and that are ready to go.
Right.
So let's talk about assigned versus unassigned on Google Map. This helps our schedulers know. This also helps the greater team know who's working on what. This also allows for crews that are working in a specific area. If they notice a pin drop on a map right near where they're located, they could potentially almost pick it up and take care of that work order without having to wait for someone in the office to schedule it out.
Or at least know that that's going to be their next, probably their next target.
Right. And if they're, part of a traveling crew, they might look to book a hotel near that area, thinking that they might be picking it up tomorrow. You never know. So seeing unassigned and assigned, I would think maybe we're working in the 80-person range, 90-person range. I don't know if everybody needs to be able to see that.
I'm sure people at the very, very top probably don't need to see what every single one is assigned or not. That's why you have
maybe
managers.
The impact, I guess it's okay if you don't see things that are assigned, right, or unassigned. If you just kind of see like all the pins on the map, it wouldn't make or break your app on whether or not.
The app would still work without this feature.
Right, so let's call it 2.5. Yeah. And then confidence level, maybe 0.5, 0.6.
Yeah, I could see either reach or impact changing depending on exploration of things in the future.
And then effort, maybe 1.5, I would say.
Yeah, 1.5.
For someone to do. We get an 80. Cool. So now that we have that, now we'd want to know pretty much the last thing here that we'd want to kind of bring this all together is some sort of an assignment dashboard. Mm-hmm. Maybe someone doesn't want to see the map view, or maybe the dashboard needs to get emailed out every Friday, or there's some type of dashboard that some people see that they don't see the Google map. So let's add in.
Or you just need to see like
what you're
how long
assigned.
It's taken for projects to be complete, or what is assigned to you, what's assigned to you next week.
Right.
All sorts of data. And this reach would clearly be everybody.
So this would be everyone.
Yeah.
And the impact would probably be pretty low, because I think you could still conduct business and take care of work orders without this dashboard. So I would say probably like a 1.5 on this one. Mm-hmm. And then confidence level, whether or not everyone needs to see it or whether or not it's very low priority, that's pretty up in the air, I would say.
Yeah. That could fluctuate a lot.
Right. So let's call it a 0.3.
Yeah. Especially depending on what is ultimately put into the dashboard. I feel like this one could be almost its own like subcategory of its own, with lots of little of its own children to worry about, the same way that we've done the schedule, the work orders and employees. Right.
So assignment dashboard, would we say 0.75 of a month or 1 month?
Oh, I'd say it's closer to 2.
Closer to 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 or 1.5?
1.75.
1.76.
Split the difference.
We'll do 1.76.
Just to make that last number really gross.
Yep. 25.5. Okay. So imagine you go through this, or we could walk you through this, right? We get all of our features listed out. We get a reach, impact, confidence, effort in there. We get our score, and then we would sort the score column highest to lowest. And basically the top of the chart is where we'd want to start.
Yeah.
And you might draw your line at some point, at some feature, and draw your line in there and say, this is it. This is my MVP. This is what we're launching with. I need this to generate revenue, or I need this to streamline operations in my business.
Yeah.
This is all we need. The rest of this, let's listen to the market. Let's listen to our employees. Let's see what's needed. Before you go and implement all of this stuff might not even be needed.
Right. That could be a lot of time or money to commit to something like that for things that aren't really like pivotal,
right,
or easy, right? Because that's kind of the thing. This tells you if something is super important, or it tells you if it's super easy. to implement. And obviously super easy things are just like almost afterthoughts sometimes.
Right. So that's
cool.
Pretty solid walkthrough of the rice method. We talked about the Moscow method. So the Moscow method, you don't even have to do a Google Sheet. You could do a whiteboard or even put in a Google Sheet or a Google Doc, whatever.
Yeah. Instead of scores, obviously you just put in like a relative name for must have, would like to have.
Or even each column,
needed.
like reach could be must have, impact could be could have, E could be should have, F could be won't have, and then you could just do yes, no, go, no go, going all the way down, and then look at it in the end.
Yep.
Certainly more of a fluff way to go about it, but certainly it is impactful and it is a possibility. But yeah, so we've got our scores, we got our stuff. We now have a good understanding. We got effort in here. We've got our confidence level. So we understand going into this project, hey, some things are low confidence. So we got to think through this stuff. Some things we're pretty solid on.
Low confidence things, maybe we need to talk with
stakeholders,
expand it and talk with other stakeholders and see what they feel about it to adjust that number or those two numbers.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like this isn't just something that probably gets finished in a day.
Right.
You probably need to think about this for a while and get a lot of input on it. This isn't just like an immediate thing.
This is at least a 3-day workshop.
Yeah.
This continues on almost throughout the small little conversations happen on each of these features throughout the entire project. Different meetings get stood up. We talk about this. Other meetings get stood up, talk about that.
And this was
ongoing.
like 20 minutes, 30 minutes that we've done, and we've only like hit those three things. Like a real application is going to have 6 to 10 times that amount of features to think about. So yeah, a lot of work to be done.
Yep.
Fun work to be done.
Absolutely.
I like numbers like this. I've actually used something like before I knew of the rice method was a thing. I used to take my to-do lists for the year, and I would do something similar where I'd get like 3 values or 3 categories and put values to them and do like a this times that and like see what would be the highest thing, and that would be that would be my big target for the year would be number 1 and number 2 and number 3. Nerd. I'm sorry.
Hey, we'll throw this out there to the Munello Show audience. What do you use to prioritize features, or maybe conduct your to-do list?
Yeah.
Right? Do you use some sophisticated method that you found that works extremely well? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments or send us an email. Let us know. We'll check it out or feature you and bring it up in a future episode. Cool. Yeah.
Do social media posts. We'll tag you.
Yeah. All right. So that's prioritizing features, defining, potentially getting into what your MVP is, the rice method, Moscow method. Anything else should we add?
No, that's good.
All right.
Thanks.
See ya.